Hey everybody, welcome. We're here for another episode of Bearing the Light. It's a busy day here in MCG land. Sean, why don't you tell us what's going on?
Well, this morning we launched our new for a book called Your Best Game Ever, which is an amazing trove of advice for GMs and players, no matter what game you're playing, Cipher system, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, anything. We have a great list of consulting experts who are providing feedback. And also part of this Kickstarter is a new revised Cipher system rulebook. And we hit our funding goal, and we're well on our way to our first stretch goal, which is a sci-fi setting book with also specific sci-fi advice called The Stars Are Fire. So we're pretty hyped about this.
Yes, it's been a very good day. We are very excited. And now we get to play Numenera, so it's going to get even better. When we left off last time, and I'm going to give you guys one more chance to introduce your characters here in a second, just to remind everybody, but I'm going to set the scene even before that. You guys were exploring this ancient ruin from the prior worlds with the hopes of maybe finding a way to maybe set up an outpost here for your village, or rather your town. You've been sent here from the town of Neon to set up an outpost to trade with the villages in the Aldea to the south. And this was one of your options, was this strange Numenera tower. You explored it a little bit, found like a weird maze of ductwork on the inside of it that you crawled through for hours, and eventually found another human explorer here. His name is Ulrich, and he's been here for he's not exactly sure, but it's been days, trapped, he says, by some insectoid-like creatures that he kind of talked about being led by these creatures and sort of like almost like through the maze and then trapped in a certain place, and they were watching him and he didn't really know why. But thanks to the keen senses of Sean's character, you found a way through these ductworks that led you into a room where you see, in fact, two insectoid creatures, much like your new companion described. They sort of look like gigantic roach creatures, sort of with the front part upright and weird things dangling from their proboscis and mandibles, and various other bits. And they have, it looks like they have some ciphers or technology to them as well, and they seem to be in a room that's filled with some kind of technology. The walls are a crystalline kind of blue, and there are these tall plinth-like structures with lights kind of running up and down them. But in the midst of all of this, they seem to have built a kind of disgusting-looking nest. There's a terrible acrid smell in here of like decaying flesh, and the nest seems to be made of both trash and these things own bits of carapace and basically scales that have kind of shed off of these things, and they've made their own nest out of it. They seem as surprised as you are to see you. They seem as surprised as you are to see them. They are surprised to see you. And why don't we talk about who they see? And we'll start with you, Shauna.
All right. I am Kin. I'm an optimistic Jack who augments flesh with grafts. So I spend a lot of time being very excited and thinking everything is awesome, of course, until it is not. And then I sort of don't know what to do with myself.
And what's Kin's state of mind like right now?
Kin has a pretty good resistance to negativity. And so I think there's a lot of like, we got this is awesome, this is going to be fine, this is good. There's a lot of energy going into sort of, okay, we're good. So depending on what happens next, that could go either way.
Okay. Darcy.
In contrast, I think Elden, who stands tall as the Varjellen they are, with that nice, lovely, fin up top their head, Elden tries to play it pretty cool and can be kind of hot and cold in ways that seem strange to maybe humans who might expect one reaction or another. However, one thing we do know about Elden, which is very different from Darcy, is that Elden is real freaked out by bugs, finds them very unnatural, too many legs. So it breaks my heart to tell you that Elden wants nothing to do with this. And like the fin has gone like really, really still, and just all the body parts of Elden have just gone like stock still to see these creatures sort of face to face. So Elden is not having a good time. So Elden is usually our Arkus, who's good at talking to new kinds of people or humanoids or anything that can talk. But Elden is really not approaching this with an open mind.
All right. Well, Ulrinic is right there with you. He is as terrified of these things as you are. What about you, Bruce? What are we playing?
Hi. Well, I'm playing Kuo, who's a serene right. And means, of course, that I craft things like ciphers and artifacts, or at least I hope to one day. I've tried before. I am looking at these bugs and I'm thinking, well, they've got technology. Maybe I can figure out how to talk to them, and I'm reaching for a cipher.
Cool. And lastly, Sean, who are you playing?
I am playing Tayrog. He's a clever delve who lives in the wilderness. Delves are characters that are good at getting into dangerous areas and getting back out alive with fancy loot like Iotum. In general, he's focused on survival, but between the previous session and the one before that, I picked up an ability called Curious, which makes me just really able to amp up my reflexes and senses whenever I'm in an unfamiliar area. So I'm kind of like on the edge and ready to take action as soon as these things make an overt, threatening sort of motion.
Okay, cool. So you are ready for action. That's your state of mind. All right, well, that's probably great because we're going to start this session off with a die roll because we need to know who's going when. It's initiative time. So, as always, you're just kind of looking to beat them.
I'm going to use my Curious ability, which lets me apply a level of effort. And when I do that to initiative in this sort of situation, I get an extra free level of effort. So this will be 2 levels of effort for me.
Okay, and then tell me what you get, Sean.
I can roll the die on the table. I roll a 15.
All right, and you eased it by 2 steps. So you're probably going to be going first. Bruce?
It turns out a 14. I saw the 1 and I was worried, but 14.
All right. Unfortunately, you're going to be going just after they do. Darcy?
I rolled all of a 2, and I have nothing helping me. So Elden is just frozen with fear and
seems
alarm.
right.
Yeah,
think,
it does. It really does.
All right. And Shauna? 5. Okay, so you, Tayrog, you are starting us off. You are setting the stage here.
What
do you do?
Well, I was expecting Elden to do something because they're our speaker. So I glance over to Elden, and Elden's like, "Bogs." So I'm trained in sensing danger. Do I get like a hostile vibe from these things, or are they just kind of surprised and curious?
That is a really good question. You don't even need to make a roll. You can tell that, like I said, you've startled them as much or more than you were startled. But you definitely get the sense these things don't talk, right? They're not making any noise like that. You just kind of feel this sensation of like your bones and your guts just kind of vibrating as though there's some kind of sound that you can't quite hear, but you can feel. And you get the impression that these things are going to react with violence. Like they're so startled, they're going to react poorly.
All right. Well, I assume these are the things that were messing with my head and making me get confused about directions and stuff. So I'm going to leap into their weird nest chamber and try and stab one of them with my lucky spear. And I will apply a level of effort to accuracy.
Okay.
I roll a 19.
Wow. Okay. So as always, a 19 is either a minor special effect or +3 damage. What would you like to choose?
Can I knock it down?
Can you what?
Knock it down.
Oh, the creature.
Yes.
Yeah. So once you're in here, the chamber this is a weird room. It's very different from other places that you've seen in this place. Although mostly what you've seen is kind of the substructure. And so now that you're up much higher in the tower, this room, the floor is not perfectly flat. It's kind of bowl-like, and the ceiling is slightly domed. Remember, it's got kind of a blue crystalline sheen, and in fact, I mentioned that being on the walls, but it's actually true of the floor and the ceiling as well. It's almost like being inside a giant egg. And knocking one of these things over you think will be tricky because it's got so many legs. But you think that, so there are all these big plinths, these synth and metal things rising up out of the air. You could probably like knock it into the nest or into one of these plinths, but you're not quite sure if you could actually knock it down. You know what I mean?
Okay. Then I'll just try and like knock it into a position where it's less likely to have freedom of movement to attack anybody.
Okay, great. So how much damage do you do regularly then?
It's a medium weapon, so that's 4.
Okay, so you do 4 points of damage, and these things have this scaly carapace-like armor on them, so that absorbs some of it, but you think you hurt it. And then at the same time, you knock it back, it kind of slips and slides on its own nest, in the bits of its own nest, and it kind of goes skittering across the floor and maybe kind of half behind one of those plinths that I mentioned. So it's not in a good position to act at all. And the next thing that happens is the other one, because there are 2. Again, there is no noise, but you can feel just like this really, really sharp vibration kind of in your chest. It almost feels like there's someone screaming, but there's no sound. And it takes one of its limbs, and it has something attached to it, and it's clearly an artificial like metal thing kind of attached to it and wrapped around in like its arm is fitted into a sheath almost, and it just points that arm at you, Tayrog, and emitting from it is this wide, brilliant burst of kind of orangish energy. And you're going to need to make a speed defense roll.
Okay. And I do not have any special defenses against that. So it's just normal. I'll apply a level up effort.
Okay.
Easy
it by 1. Roll an 18.
I'm really good today.
All right. So this beam of energy blasts out. You just managed to dodge out of the way of it. It flashes over your shoulder. You feel the heat from this thing just kind of scorching your shoulder and the side of your face. And it strikes the wall, the crystalline wall behind you, but harmlessly.
Weird.
And so the other one, let's see. So you had a minor special effect on that guy. So minor special effect is not normally enough to make it so that a foe can't act, but it is going to act in is hindered.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So it is hindered. And so what it does is it moves over to the plinth that you've kind of knocked it by, and using its tiny weird little fingers that are on the end of some of its limbs, it seems to press different parts of the plinth. And I'm afraid this is, so the rest of you are kind of all still within the duct and looking out of the hole. And the duct is maybe about like a foot or so off the floor. So it's not a far drop or anything. But it seems to also still be really focused on Tayrog. Tayrog's getting the brunt of this. So it manipulates some controls or something. It presses parts of this plinth, and suddenly the entire room kind of seems to change in shape and configuration. And it becomes less egg-like and more totally spherical. And what happens is what you see first is all the bits of the nest just start flying up into the air and crashing into the ceiling above. And then Tayrog, you also feel just suddenly as though you are falling. As though you were suddenly on the ceiling and now you're falling to the floor. And what you need to do is what do you do? What do you do when that happens?
I'm going to try and grab something big and solid so I don't fall.
Okay. That would be a speed defense roll.
All right. I roll a 4.
Okay. Your good luck finally gave out. So you go flying up to the ceiling. You're going to take 4 points of damage from that.
And does my armor apply? This
It
seems
does not.
environmental. Okay.
But the creatures, they somehow cling to the surface. So they are where they were. Tayrog has gone flying up into the air along with all the bits and pieces of their nest. And if you remember, they had a bunch of like things, kind of shiny objects kind of dangling from cords and stuff hanging all over in places in the room. Those all went flying up into what seems to be the ceiling. But within the duct, nothing has changed. And it is now Kuo's turn.
All right, Kuo sees that his plan has possibly gone off the rails, but he's going to press forward anyway. He's going to use his telepathy implant, which allows him to target one of these creatures within short range and try and set up a telepathic communication, which will last for several hours, depending on the level of my cipher. And so I do that.
Okay. And so you set up mental telepathy with this thing. It doesn't resist it, so it works. And what is your sort of initial message?
I say, we have come and we are surprised as you, but perhaps we can reach some sort of accommodation so we all don't get hurt.
Okay. And do you have any skill in interaction or persuasion or social interaction?
Let's see. I can talk about No, I don't. But right. I will apply a level of effort to, you know what? I'll apply 2 levels of effort to that attempt since
he's going on luck. He's trained in luck.
All right. And effort, right? So, sheer force of will.
So you're going to ask, that's a roll.
Charming as hell. Yes, please.
All right. So 2 levels of effort. I have some XP. I'm going to spend one of those pieces to reroll that. And that'll be 13.
Okay. So it is going to respond, but as it's responding, because the rest of you don't actually know that this is happening, because it's only a one-way communication.
I was going to say this. I was going to tell you I was speaking aloud as I said it, but I forgot to actually say that part. My friends could hear what I was telling you. All right. So
no, that's okay. That's okay. You can. It probably comes naturally, actually, to say out loud. So you're saying this to them, and so, but I still, before it replies, I still want to know what Keen and Elden are doing. Kin.
Yeah, Kin. I kind of still suspect that even though one of us could probably go before the other, I feel like Elden should be last of the round, just totally frozen in fear, doing none of the leading that they were brought on to do. What were you going to do, Ken?
I think that knowing Elden as well as I do and watching them sort of stop and be, and me being as positive as I am, I'm gonna start using encouraging presence, which gives you guys an asset on defense rolls, but I'm also like just trying to get you sort of moving and feeling safe, and because you are our leader, and there's a part of my optimistic brain that's like, okay, if Elden goes down, this is going to go very badly for us. So it's mostly just sort of like support, and they're not really bugs. It's all good. Look at and I probably was starting to say, look at Tayrog, he's got, and then nope. Okay, nope. Crow's got it. We're all right.
Okay. And so everyone gets an asset on their defense rolls, but also Elden's getting the pure, unfiltered optimism of the most optimistic person you've ever met.
Out of me in a ray.
Maybe that's what finally shakes Elden out of their reverie, and as they start to do a thing which you have all seen a little bit on screen before with the Philethus. So, but now, so before I had tried to reach out to, with my ability to cloud personal memories, to sort of reach into another thing and understand its mind a bit, which is sort of my usual shtick, but then also terrorize it with that knowledge. If I choose to do so, but I have to get up close to touch it. But my dear friend's optimism has pushed me through it, so I'm going to try to get close to one of these things. So which one's closest to me? The
one that Tayrog did not strike.
Okay.
Because Tayrog kind of pushed that one toward the back.
Okay, gotcha. And so. Yeah, with this spherical orientation, I'm going to try to get to them. I don't know if that requires a roll.
It sure does.
It sure does. Bet it did.
You step into the room and the floor is not at all what you were expecting.
Okay.
Your stomach probably just kind of, well, actually, you're a Philethus, so
Varjellen,
I don't know what goes on inside the Philethus, but there is the sensation of just sudden and terrible reorientation, and it's as though you are about to fall. So, what do you do?
Well, my headcanon is that it actually feels very like grounding for me, because I just, as a Varjellen, I think about how my whole body shifts all the time and how I'm constantly in flux. So actually probably falling through the air a little weirdly is kind of maybe, at least mentally putting me in a good headspace. Let's go with that. Although I'm getting closer to the bugs, so
Okay. So are you going to
Yeah.
You're effectively on the ceiling.
Right. Are my feet staying on the ceiling? No. Okay.
But there are lots of, like, remember there are these big plinths, right? And in theory, if you grabbed onto one, you could kind of.
I'm gonna jungle gym my way down.
Okay. Well, over to them or down?
The one that's closest to me, so I think over to them.
Okay, because the best way to describe it is they are on the ceiling of this room.
Okay, so it's only us that are falling. I get it.
Yes. You're not exactly sure how it is that they are not falling, but they're not. They look as though, however, I will say, remember how they also have things dangling off of them?
Yeah.
That's oriented
cool.
The way you would expect, right? So everything's, it looks like they're hanging upside down.
Okay, cool. All right. I know it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try it. So I'm going to spend 2 levels of effort to, because I am not trained in this, to just hopefully dexterously navigate this thing and go from one plinth to the other.
I think you could. Yeah, it sounds like you want to use speed then.
Yeah.
And let's see how you do.
Okay. All right. It's eased 2 steps, and I rolled a 13.
Nice.
That's a lot of points to do it, but.
So you do exactly what you said. You grab hold of the edge of one of these things and kind of reach over. These plinths are not perfectly smooth. There's a lot of protrusions and things to grab onto. So you kind of hand over hand make your way across, and you've got your long Varjellen limbs, which probably help, and you get over to one of them, and probably that probably slowed you down a little bit, so probably not able to actually do your ability until next round.
That makes sense. The first step of it is usually to think about it. So maybe I'm just getting ready to like reach out. It would still take 2 more turns to act, but I'm ready. I've gotten over there at least.
All right, yeah, and you're right there, right? Cool. You're sort of in
for
this
better or for worse
space, more or less. So, all of that has happened. And Ulrenic is he's not doing anything. He's not feeling the encouragement of Kin. He's still terrified of these things. But Kuo just said some persuasive words, and all of you feel that sort of shuddering in your chest. But that seems to coincide, Kuo, with a telepathic response through your cipher. And you, in particular, Kuo, are convinced that what this weird vibration that you are feeling is actually them talking, right? That is their voice. And the response is basically afraid, dislike, and then kind of just a general desire to be alone.
They're introvert bugs.
Well, I'm going to suggest to them that perhaps we can divide up this tower, because we're going to live in part of it. And hopefully we can do so in peace and cooperation. That sounds terrible.
It's a little bold, but you are the Arkus. That's legit.
All right, so you're saying that telepathically and out loud?
And out loud.
Okay. But before we determine the success of that, I want to know what Tayrog is doing up on the ceiling or the floor, depending on your perspective.
So that one that activated the plinth, it's still near that plinth, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I am just keeping an eye on it, and if it looks like it's going to fiddle with the plinth again, and it seems like we're still kind of in a hostile situation, I'm going to be ready for this gravity to flip, and I'm just going to take advantage of it and use it as kind of like a climbing leap to stab them.
Okay.
But until that happens, I'm just going to wait.
Okay. All right. So now, Kuo, I'm going to need you to make yet another roll for this interaction, and this one, this one's going to be harder, right? I'm going to tell you that right off the bat, because you're basically telling these things, yeah, we're going to take over half your house now, and we're just going to live here.
Yeah, I've been trying to come up with a way of saying it, like, it'll end up being better for all of us. But
okay, all right, that's a good spin.
And even though it seems on initial blush a little disheartening, but think about all the great things we can do and the protection you'll have with us here working together with you. And if you don't want to see anyone, you won't have to. All right, so I'm going to apply another 2 levels of effort.
Okay.
I don't have any other benefits I can apply. I'm not lying. I rolled a natural 20. Make sure that's not a 1, though. Oh, yes, it's a 1. No, it's a natural 20.
God, the roller coaster. Jeez.
What are you doing to us, Bruce?
It's my Call of Cthulhu dice, so it's the Elder Sign is the natural 20. I was like, well, it could be the 1, right? But
yeah.
No, it's not.
All right. So natural 20 means you get those points that you spent back on the action, first and foremost. All right. You ease the task by 2 steps. You roll a 20. You get a special effect.
As a special effect, I would like the one who got pushed back. I don't know, just to, feel a little. If there's like something like knocked him, like pinning him down or whatever, he just gets free and it doesn't seem so bad. But that would be beyond the pale. But
And just just generally, you with an natural 22, you could, if there's one more sort of persuasive thing that you want to put forth there.
I'll say when two people meet who don't know each other, violence is often the first act, but perhaps we can overcome that and make something new here.
So then telepathically you all feel the shuddering, and then you hear safety, calm for now. And the one begins manipulating the bits on the plinth, but then points up at you, and because you can tell these things are talking to each other, with even though Kuo is only in telepathic communication with one of them, and points up at you and just kind of does like this kind of motion with its hands. And sure enough, when it does that, you feel gravity reorient, but it does so slowly. And so, and that same for Elden. You're reoriented, but not in a really fast, violent way, just kind of in a slow way. And Kin, do you want to take an action?
I think that so we could hear Kuo's conversation, and
you could hear Kuo's part of it.
Right. And can I sense, do I sense what's happening with the, because I can see the gravity changing, and so.
Yeah, and there's something about this thing's kind of motion like this, which it seems a little calming a little bit. And they're not, shooting blasts of energy or anything at you anymore.
Oh, that's a good start. I think that I am going to then, if everything, I feel like Kuo's doing such a good job with taking care of that I'm going to actually talk to the gentleman who we found, whose name
Ulrich,
and make sure that he's not going to do anything that's going to upset the balance of what's happening out there, the sort of thing that we're making, and I'm gonna explain to him my version of what's happening, which is that we're all gonna be friends and it's gonna be awesome and everyone's gonna be safe, and so I'm just gonna take my action to talk to him.
Okay, that's actually super insightful, because as you focus your attention on him, you can see, because remember he's got like this big knife. You can see that his hand is on the hilt of the knife, and he's just kind of saying, you're not really sure if he's saying it to himself or to you, but he's kind of saying, you can't trust these things. You can't trust them. And he's got his hand on his knife. So this is actually going to be an interaction that you're going to need to make a task.
Okay, I am trained in persuasion, and I will apply a level of effort.
Okay, so you're using it by 2 steps.
Once I see that knife, because
right,
I don't want to risk it. And I roll a 5. Let me see. I have some retry options because I'm optimistic and the world is awesome. Let me look at them really quickly.
That's awesome.
So I can I can retry it, but not until the next round. So that might be too late.
Okay. Well, but you used it by 2 steps. So he doesn't. You haven't calmed him. You haven't changed his mind, but he doesn't take an action, at least right now. He's just kind of looking at you, and he's just saying, no, you don't understand. You can't trust these things. They've kept me here trapped for days and days. They're terrible. And what about Elden? You're kind of righted back onto the floor now.
Yeah, I think I finally, get hold of my senses that things are de-escalating here. And so I'm going to sort of not reach out and touch and try to aggressively mind meld with this thing. So I sort of put my hand down, but I can still feel the sort of tension between Ulrinic and between these bug creatures that clearly have not brought us in with their open arms. Or Kuo would look a little less worried. I'm seeing the tiniest bit of worry on Kuo's usually serene face, perhaps. That's telling me all is not 100%. So I would like to activate my demeanor of command. And so I think this is me sort of seizing my usual, I'm supposed to be the leader here, let's bring everyone together for a better future, rah-rah. So I emote confidence and charisma, and I sort of, just everything about my body language and my way I present starts to present myself as an authority figure to others. Now, I'm not really sure if that'll work on these bug creatures, but it should work on Ulrinic at least. So that's my hope. So if it does work on the bug creatures, if I'm speaking to a group that can understand me, I can have them attempt to produce their leader or ask that they take me to their leader, and I get a free level of persuasion as I activate this.
Okay.
So, I'm probably just starting to talk, right, to sort of see how they react about, Kuo is right. We would love to, we're coming in from shelter and danger. We can coexist, blah, blah, blah. Can we communicate through this?
Okay. You are a trained communicator and a very insightful person. So probably for the first time in your experience, you're speaking to beings that are intelligent, but not only do you think they don't understand what you're saying, they're currently not really aware that you are trying to communicate. When you make noises with your mouth parts, that doesn't really seem to register in any way to them.
Dang.
But you can also tell, you still have this sort of demeanor of
authority
respect or authority, right? And so they're looking at you, and you can imagine they're probably saying, "What's this impressive creature doing?" However, Ulrinic is definitely kind of looking to you, expectantly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's my action at the moment is to tell everybody to sort of hold, and I'm going to turn to Kuo, who seems to be able to communicate with these things. What do you think we should do? Can you continue discussing with them? Are they
for 5 hours? They are.
Oh.
Although I may be able to make more of these particular ciphers with enough iotum.
Ooh.
I just want to confirm. I want to know what Tayrog is going to do, and depending on Tayrog's action, we may or may not be out of initiative.
We seem to be in talking mode now, so I will lower my lucky spear, but I'm going to see if there's something like a rope or whatever that I can just kind of wrap my wrist around, so if they flip the gravity again, I'll be ready for it.
Yeah, probably there aren't really ropes, but like I was mentioning to Darcy, these plinths and stuff have a lot of metal and synth protrusions and weird bits that you could easily grab hold of a good solid one like that if you wanted to.
That's what I do, and I'm trained in climbing, so I'll be.
Oh, yeah. No problem. You find a great purchase. You're pretty sure that even if gravity shifted, it would flip you around, but you'd keep your place. Okay, well, with that in mind, then I'm not going to worry about the order of actions, and these things are they're actually right at the moment. They seem to be kind of focused on Elden, even though it is Kuo who is speaking to them.
I will actually start translating what Elden's saying, since I usually look up to what Elden says.
Okay.
We can work together and come up with some sort of plan. Obviously, these creatures are kind of thinking more in emotion necessarily than in direct speech. So,
yeah, I'm thinking, should we start with, may we have permission to take shelter in, far away from here, but in this tower, and with pointing, right? Can we stay? would be something I might want to start to negotiate first. Maybe the long-term big plan we can get to. So, Kuo, would you mind asking them for me?
I totally go. Yeah, I will just translate everything you ask, unless I say otherwise.
Yeah.
What I really tell them, no.
Okay. With this interaction, it becomes really clear that, again, because they don't recognize that talking with your mouth is actually a way of communicating, it becomes really clear that they think that they have been telepathically communicating with Elden the whole time, because Elden clearly has this aura of respectability and leadership, and they're not associating the telepathic words with the
Right.
audible ones. So they're clearly still really focused on Elden, even as Kuo's words are coming into at least one of their minds. And so at this point, you don't need to make another roll. The response is leave here, stay below, leave soon.
Can you transmit my thanks and ask if we can give them something in thanks?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll hold up something. I have no idea what these things might want. Okay, but I
They
see stuff.
clearly like
Yeah.
shiny things and technological. I mean, they've got ciphers and stuff.
This is a really powerful cipher, but they seem pretty intelligent, right? But I feel like this would be a really useful gift, and so I think my training as someone who tries to actually think of culturally thoughtful gifts when I hand something over, if I have a thing, I'm going to hand over my machine control implant. So
Wow.
I will.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, but this could be really big for us guys. So
I pull out my small square metal cage and just say, "Are you sure?" Like I've been coveting that implant forever.
Oh yeah, because we were gonna possibly plant it, right?
But I don't say it in a way that makes you've changed your mind. I just
Okay,
sort of
cool.
am like,
oh yeah, no, you're totally right. We have plans for that machine control implant. Cool, but I do have something that could be cool. So, yeah, I'm just I think they're too smart to hand them just an oddity that doesn't do anything. I'm kind of worried. So I'll give them, I'll give them my shocker ring because it's not incredibly powerful. It sounds powerful, but it's not, and it's not really great in my hands anyway. So it's a weapon device. It's a thing that I can activate to, let's see, what does it do? It delivers a powerful burst of electricity that gives a shock. So hopefully that also may communicate I'm trusting you with potentially a weapon you can harm me with. Here's a thankful thing. So see if you can pass that over to them, Kuo. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. At this point, I am going to ask you to make a roll for this sort of offering to them. This is gonna be Elden's action, Elden's task. Even though Kuo is sort of translating through it. However, this does give you the opportunity if you wanted to try to aid Elden.
You know what? I will help Elden. That
Thank
sounds like
you.
a good idea.
Okay.
Excellent. So is my demeanor of command is not helping me though. Is that easing anything or that makes sense.
Well, it's specific. Well, actually, you have yes. Because you have the ability is if you can establish communication with them, and you've done that, right?
Perfect.
It's a telephone is like a game of telephone,
it
but
really is.
Yes.
Cool. Then I am eased from. I've got a lot of cat going on. I am eased from my usual training. I am eased from demeanor. Oh no!
Oh no!
GM intrusion. So I'm eased twice, and then am I also eased a third time with Kuo's assistance?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. I'm gonna make that roll. I'm
Okay.
still gonna spend another level of effort because I want this to work.
Okay, so you're easing it by 4 steps.
4 steps.
Okay.
Oh, and I only rolled a 6, so...
Okay, but you're easing it by 4 steps.
Yes.
And you're offering them a cool gift.
Yeah.
Which is also going to be an asset to this
Perfect.
particular task. So you hold that out. They reach out with their weird little hands with like, they don't really have, their fingers are differing lengths. It doesn't look at all like a human hand. And they take it. They kind of
very grossed out.
That's right, bugs.
I'm very happy.
They take it. They almost seem to kind of like run it in front of their face, and it almost seems as though they like taste it. And then they telepathically say surprise and gratitude and reassessment.
Ooh, yes.
Well done. Did we tell them what it does? Because if they electrocute themselves, I think they're going to reassess again.
I was hoping that I was like miming what it does, and here it activates, and oh, it's starting to give off shock. I would definitely have asked that Kua explain what it does. Oh gosh, yeah, that'd be horrible.
Okay.
But I don't want to overstay my welcome too, so I'm going to see where the conversation goes, but not linger, and ask that we leave soon.
And then, so they seem to communicate with each other, but their communication seems to be really fast.
Cool.
Like they don't like stop and talk for a long time. It's just like you kind of get that sensation, and then one of the one that you're not in telepathic communication with produces what looks like sort of a small canister with some kind of device at the top of it, and presents it to Elden. And telepathic communication is reciprocation, ease of escape,
Ooh.
pliable matter. And about all you know, Elden, is that it's a cipher.
Okay, great. I gently take it and sort of, I don't know what body movements communicate respect in this with these creatures at all, so I'm not going to try.
Okay.
So I'm going to sort of nod and put it in my away in my bag, and we can maybe look at it closer later. I don't want to. They did say ease of escape, but I mostly want to get out of this room, and then maybe I can have someone look at it.
Okay. So so Ulrich is, like I said, looking to Elden, right? Clearly, because they have this sort of aura of leadership around them, but he's still kind of saying under his breath, no, don't touch it. It's probably a trap.
Oh, buddy.
Is that for me?
Oh, do you want to do anything? You're next to him, kind of still in the crawl space
Yeah, I'd like to use late inspiration, which means that I can retry a task that I failed within the last minute. I'm assuming it's only been a minute, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So with this one, I get to use the same difficulty modifiers. So that would have been 2, and then now I have an additional asset from the ability.
Super cool.
So of course, if it fails, I can't try it again with this ability, but so that gives me basically 3
steps.
Okay, so I am gonna just talk him down. I rolled a 20.
Nice.
Yay.
All right, well, your extremely positive words seem to finally kind of get through it to him, and he literally just kind of rubs his eyes and just says, you're right. You all seem to have this in hand. Maybe I misunderstood these creatures. I don't know. There's something about the way they make everything kind of vibrate. It gets to you, you know. It's like it affects. I don't know. I really would like to leave, but I'm sure we're going to be okay. You clearly, the Varjellen has this in hand.
Absolutely, they do. We're gonna go downstairs. We've exchanged gifts, which makes everything okay. I'm just gonna keep talking.
Okay.
So I sense that that his response has to do more with getting trapped and not understanding the sort of incoming input, as opposed to actually something actually bad happening to him, right? Just from talking to him, do I get that sense that he just kind of convinced himself of this, or is it hard to tell?
No, this guy's been trapped here for presumably by these creatures for days, and he hasn't anything to eat or drink, only he's run out of food and drink, and so he's probably a little on the edge now, and then being forced to confront these things and whatnot. So you don't think there's anything more than that, although he did say that he feels like these subsonic vibrations that these things make kind of affect him. And he's not wrong. They also don't sit all that well with you either.
Okay. And then do I get my points back for late inspiration from the 20 as well?
Yes.
Cool, thanks.
All right. What do you guys do? Who wants to take an action?
I'd like to start making a polite exit. Getting back into that awkward duct, and getting a bit out of here.
You think, Tayrog, you think that you know the way back, right? You found that really useful landmark in there that you've that's the place, if you can get to that, then you just take these turns and you can get back, which means back meaning where Ulrich was trapped. The place down in the substructure where you found a big, huge device, if you remember, and then there's another section of the substructure where the exit is. Where, if you exit here, where do you want to go?
I asked the rest of the group, but I think we should get Ulrich to the rest of our people so he can get more food and water. And we can inform them that there are these creatures that, at least for now, we're not hostile with. Does that seem reasonable, Elden?
Yeah, I think that seems reasonable.
Okay. Then it takes a while, right? It probably takes almost a half an hour to wind your way through all these ducts, but you get out again, and. I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I think you actually had the rest of your group come inside the substructure, but not go any further than that. Is that correct?
That sounds right. They were close.
Okay.
Or they were within a long distance, at least.
Okay, so you rejoin with the rest of your expedition, and you can make some introductions with Ulrich. He's enjoyed the food and drink that you gave him, but he does mention that he's still pretty hungry. If there's anything that he could trade, he would happily trade it for food at this point.
I feel like we have good stores. I don't think we need to ask him for anything, right?
Yeah, we can for now give him some food, and I think, and
he says, "Well, I really feel indebted to you. I'd still be trapped in there if it wasn't for you, if you hadn't come along."
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Were you just exploring, looking for salvage, ciphers, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I came in here looking to salvage some. My people call it iotum. I don't know what you call it. So he's got a bag. He's still got all of his stuff. He's eaten all his food and drank all his water. And so he produces basically a some stuff that he just says, here, you can have all of this. This is what I found. And one of these things we have a little image of. So the first is these 3 kind of almost like canisters that seem to contain a very weird kind of viscous gel. And cool, you recognize the stuff. The canister isn't familiar to you, but the stuff inside it you've seen before. That is mimetic gel.
Mimetic gel, excellent.
And he also produces basically just like a lined bag, almost like a water skin like thing. And inside it, there is this very weird, almost clay-like substance. Again, you recognize this to be apt clay. So there's 4 units of it in there.
And he's giving this to us?
He's yes, and while he's eating, he basically just kind of puts his bag down and he says, here, that's all for you. And there's 2 other things in there as well, 2 weird little devices that you and he just kind of puts the bag down and then he's eating, right? So he's just like, oh yeah, take whatever you want. And so there's 2 oddities in there as well that you pretty quickly identify as such. One seems to be a little metal cylinder. It's maybe no more than 3 inches long, and it's pretty clear that if you twist the top, a tiny, very bright and intense beam of energy about another 3 inches protrudes out of it. Like a tiny little, almost like a knife or something. However, when you hold it up to something, all it does is give off heat, not a lot. About the amount of heat that you would get, like if you took a magnifying glass and held it up to the sun. So, I mean, you could burn wood with it or something if you wanted to go really slow. But other than that, it doesn't really seem to do anything. And the other thing is a small metallic pyramid, but its weirdness seems to be that no matter what you do, if you set it down, it always sets on the point or on one of the points. You can't get it to lay flat. It always pops back up. So those are 2 weird little oddities, and then you found some iotum in there as well.
I'll make an inventory of that stuff. I'll actually add it into the other iotum that I've been collecting in my carry-all artifact. Okay,
cool. And while he's sitting there eating, he says, when you were talking to the creatures, you said something about trying to live here. What's your story? Why are you here?
I look to Elden because I'm going through this stuff. It's a long story.
Yeah, I'm very, it's an opportunity for me to talk to a human who speaks the way I do and tell them a story. I sit down and go, when I first visited, what's the name of our village? Neon. And tell them about my mentor and about these expeditions we sent out and how we were, we need to find a new outpost. And so tell him our whole story while he's eating and maybe bring him over some more water, and just try to put him at ease. And but yeah, I tell him our whole story and say, we're trying to ascertain whether this location is suitable for an outpost. Now that we've established a solid communication of a sort with these creatures, what is your read on this area? Do you think it is stable enough for a habitat to be built? Is there anything else you saw in your explorations that might be useful to us?
The structure, you mean? The structure's sound. He says, he points, if you remember, like there was a collapse in here, and one of the huge supports had fallen, and he says, that aside, kind of points at that. He says, I don't know how that happened. That wasn't like that when I came in. But he says, everything I've seen has suggested that this is stable. Most of the places that I found, like when I was actually able to even get out of the ductwork, it's pretty empty. I didn't find too much of interest. There's a device that's where I got the iotum out of. We can go back there if you want, but that place where the creatures had their nest was by far the most interesting place in this whole tower that I have seen. I guess, it's conceivable, especially down here in the substructure, if you wanted to, you could pretty easily set up camp here. I'm still really nervous about those things being up there, though. He says, and what's this? You said you're here to set up an outpost, but why? What's it for?
Let's see.
Basically, we just want to increase the reach of Neon to make contact with some of the other communities in the area, have a place from which to explore other runes that we might find, just to generally increase our knowledge and increase our reach.
And there is a specific area we've heard about near here, which Darcy has forgotten, but certainly not my character. What was the town that there was a crashed device with people in it, and there was a note of a nearby community we're trying to reach? Maybe this person knows.
Let's see. What was that?
My notes are lacking.
Mine too.
I'm usually good about this.
Maybe they didn't tell us.
No, I know what Darcy's asking. I'm sorry.
Bora? 6 days travel to the south.
Aura?
Boro, Bora?
Okay. Cool.
No, Bora are our creatures. Darn it. 6 days to the south is something.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Well,
a community, which I will look up the name of later.
And this is why you always leave a note.
Yes.
Well, Ulrich says, I have never heard of Neon, but I'm from a place called Red Ridge, and we would. I don't know. I can't speak for the town leadership or anything, but I can't imagine that we would be opposed to setting up some kind of trade or communication with another town. I mean, you seem like good folks. If the people of Neon are like you, he says between mouthfuls of food that you've given him, should be good. Are there a lot of Varjellen there? He says.
Not. No, sadly, but they are good people, and you'll find them to your liking, I am sure.
He says there's a whole enclave of Varjellen just south of Red Ridge.
What?
He says we interact and trade with them all the time.
Elden looks very angry all of a sudden and storms off.
What's their deal?
Have we seen that from them before?
I don't think so. I mean, you may have seen frustration or something, but you've never seen I'm stopping this conversation and storming out of the room.
We may not even know what angry face looks like on a
That's
Varjellen.
true.
We might be like,
Yeah.
And
So
so
at Alrenic, and I go, another biscuit?
and Ulrich, of all of you, seems the least put off by that. Almost as though he's used to interacting with Varjellen, who do weird,
Yes.
non-human things. And he just kind of shrugs and he takes a biscuit.
Perfect. Ah, that makes me so happy. So we've set up camp. Our people are here. They seemed okay. And
they report that nothing has happened while you've been off. Everything here has been quiet. There hasn't been, other than the fact that they could kind of hear you as you left and as you returned in the ducts. They haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
So, sorry. I was going to say, as a person who likes to build things, I'm looking at the foundation of the tower, and I'm talking out loud to all of you, so I can kind of think as I'm talking. This tower might serve, assuming we can maintain sort of peace with these bug creatures, might serve as the base for this outpost we want to create, right? It looks like it's defensible. We needed to fall back into it. I'm not saying we should build necessarily inside of it, although maybe there's enough space. I'm not 100% certain, but
this place where you are right now in the substructure, it's huge. It's like being inside a almost like an aircraft hangar, but with ductwork.
So I'm thinking we already have protection from the elements here, right? We have protection from the weather. We can create defensible structure. We can create a door, gate on this here. I think we're well on our way to potentially having a base, this beginnings of a base. What do you all think about this idea?
I trust your assessment, Kuo, and it seems safe to me.
I think it's very pretty here. Kuo, how many of the what are they called? The bug creatures that Elden is afraid of. How many of them are there inside? Did you ask?
I think at some point we'll have to go and send another embassy, but that will have to wait until I create another of the ciphers that I use. I actually have a plan for this particular kind of cipher.
Ooh.
So one of your companions that's with you, Joe, is kind of staying there too, and she's kind of looking around and she says, "There's no light in here. That's going to get old."
I don't have the ability currently to create artificial light, but we could, in the meantime, we could make torches and use mirrors. But yeah, that will get old. Joe, that is something that I will focus on figuring out how to build. I know I've heard of such plans back before I came to Neon, I say, and then I stopped talking.
Is there, I'm just speculating, cool, maybe there's a source of power in this place that you could draw upon to provide power for your lights? That way you wouldn't have to treat them like ciphers and keep remaking them over and over again.
Agreed. An installation that would create light would certainly be ideal.
I'm not using your big words. Just tell me the stuff you need to build it, and I'll find it for you. Actually, I do have a cipher right now that is good for detecting iodems. So it's got some things to adjust on it. So if there's something else that you're looking for, I could activate this and go scrounge around.
Well, ultimately, any item we can find will eventually come to use. So that will always be useful. Actually, with the item that comes in this bag, I have, in the plans I currently have, I actually could create either, not lights, unfortunately, but I could create a water purifier. I could create a auto mender, which will heal your hurts, or I could create. Well, those are the. Oh, I could also create a defensive turret that fires little slugs.
I ask Ulrenic again, how far away is your village from here?
On foot, I got here about. Wasn't quite 4 days.
And since I'm trained in navigation and that wilderness survival, I assume that, like, based on the terrain, I have a reasonable sense of where sources of water might be.
Yes, it's So speaking of water, it is raining. It is lightly raining outside at the moment. You can look out the sort of the gaping hole there. There's no sign of the Philethus anywhere, by the way. So it's raining, but you're guessing based on the terrain, because you basically just kind of follow it to the low spot, right? You think that there's probably water not too far off. But it will be if this becomes an outpost, right, there would have to be some ferrying of water.
I'm sure Crow could build a channel in the ground or a pipe or something. But yeah, I'll mention that. So we will have a source of water nearby, but you might want to find a way to bring it here faster, purify it. But again, that's your dog show, and I'll let you decide on that.
Your friends have a lot of faith in you, Kuo. They're just like, I'm sure Kuo can fix that.
I'm a little worried. That will be a future project. If we could find water closer, that would certainly be better. But perhaps I could make a water catchment on the side of this tower.
Ooh.
So if you're going to build something, it's going to take you a couple of days?
Yeah, it'll take me... I'm specialized in crafting Numenera, which reduces the building time for these things, but still... building anything of even just 2 or 3 levels will take a few days.
Well, maybe Ulrenic, Joe, and I could just kind of scout around this tower and get a better sense of the lay of the land and let you know what sort of resources we have for long-term planning, since you're going to be taking a few days.
Okay.
I think I will start with so no one's really that hurt, right? So I'm going to assume the best and assume we can come up with a way of getting the water here, create a water catchment or something. Maybe even find some sort of source of water in this tower. It was once an habitation. What do the bugs drink, after all? And I would like to create a water purifier.
Okay. How long will that
start? I was looking at it, and when I do all the calculations, it comes out to 4 days. About.
Okay. And what roles will be involved?
I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Once it's all said and done, there'll be 3 crafting subtasks, because it'll be a level 3. They'll be crafting as if a level 3 object. So I'll have to make that once every day or so.
Sure. Okay.
And it starts at level 3, and then level 2, so it'll... Actually, let me look that up. Might go the other direction, but yeah.
Okay, so Kuo's going to spend most of the next few days then crafting, and Tayrog, it sounds like you're going to go with a couple of the NPCs and just kind of scout the area around.
Yeah, we'll probably pick a quadrant, scout out, come back each night.
Okay. Ken, what are you going to be doing during these next few days?
Well, since I am trained in healing surgery and handling pain, I'm going to convince someone, probably Joe, to see if she and someone else can help me add this really cool biomechanical tentacle grafted somewhere into my skin.
Okay.
I have been coveting it since we got it, and at some point my cool cipher that I have grafted in my skin now is gonna it's not gonna work anymore, and so I'd like to be prepared and have something else. And the biomechanical tentacle is not a cipher, right? So it doesn't add to my cipher.
No, it's not. It's a piece of a creature that you cut off.
Right.
So Joe will definitely say this would be much more appropriate for Mayan and Eston.
Okay.
But
I will ask them.
Will help you. Joe feels much more comfortable helping Scout and dealing with whatever you've got going on. Mayan doesn't seem to know anything about what you're doing, but seems to be just utterly fearless. And Eston seems to be really interested.
Cool.
Has a lot of questions. She's always asking you, what how is this going to work? Why are you doing it that way?
So it takes me it's an action to start the surgery, and then it takes me 1 hour to complete it. Although this might take longer because it's not a cipher, but a biological part.
Okay. Cool. And is there a role involved in that?
It says that activate. Let's see. I haven't done this before, so this is exciting. It says that this is treated. It doesn't say. My ability that I have doesn't say. It just says that how long it takes.
Okay. Then we will just say that the ability is that you know how to make this happen, and can just in kind of a weird and painful surgical process attach this biomechanical tendril to where?
Well, I was trying to think about that because it needs to be someplace that I can use it, but that it also fits under my clothes, and is not, does not become cumbersome. So maybe under my already, no, I don't want it on the same side as my enhanced arm. Under my arm that is not enhanced, sort of, lower side.
Okay.
I can use it. I can use it as a third hand. I can use it in the back.
Okay. It's prehensile,
right?
But it's not super dexterous.
Okay.
So you could use it to grab a large object, but you couldn't use it to manipulate anything delicate or whatnot.
That seems perfect.
Yeah.
I can hold things while I.
All right. Well, like I said, Eston is just fascinated with the whole thing, and Ryan just says, "Well, okay, I'll hold it here," and doesn't seem perturbed by anything. Right? It's like, "You need me to hold this steady? I'll hold it steady while you attach these various things."
All right. So it actually does say that it counts as against my cipher limit.
Oh, it does.
The language says it's treated exactly if it were a grafted cipher. It has depletion of 1 and 1d10, etc. So.
Oh. Well, then I'm going to probably I'm going to probably be more generous in what you can do with it then.
Oh, okay. Cool. I like it.
Because it's not a permanent thing. Like, if it's giving you an ability that acts like a cipher, then it's acting like a cipher, and it can be depleted. But
Makes sense.
Just for decoration, then I don't see why I would have to.
Right, but you actually want to use this thing.
I do, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll just roll a depletion then whenever you make significant use of it. And
cool.
Oh, I'm so excited for this.
That's pretty cool.
I come back the night, I'm like, well, that's a thing.
So that means that I need to give someone my other cipher probably, because I have a non-grafted cipher as well. It's a speed rejuvenator. So I will offer that to anyone who wants it before I start my surgery. Sorry.
We have a bunch of people here. We could just leave it. This is
right.
a safe place for us now.
I just thought someone might want it while you guys are out exploring or something. Tayrog, is it restores 4 points to your to a random pool. No, to your speed pool. Sorry.
I am at my limit right now, but okay. I have a web detonation that I will leave behind so that any of our group, if they need to, disable something non-lethally, and then I'll carry that speed for Julie.
Okay. So what I would like you to do, and we'll kind of use this guideline going forward, is yes, you have a team basically of 6. Well, I guess with Ulrenic now 7 NPCs. And you can give them ciphers, but I would like you to actually give it to a specific person so that we know who has what. Because you can't just sort of pile them all into one wagon, because that's not a very safe thing to do.
Well, I seem to be making friends with Joe, so if you're fine with that, Keen, then I suggest giving it to Joe.
Cool.
And so this is the web detonation, not the...
Right, I give Joe my web detonation, and I'll take Keen's speed rejuvenator.
Okay. Speaking of ciphers, Elden, you were given a gift, and you haven't figured out what it does yet.
Sure have. So, and I am not really one who's going to figure out what it does very safely or quickly. So, Kuo, do you think when you're not aggressively, deep in your plans and your scurrying, do you think you might be able to help me take a look at this cipher and help me determine what it does?
Look forward to the distraction because my plans are. I'm like, oh, should I put it over here? Oh yes, let's think about this first. This will be something I can deal with quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different story. All right, so yeah, I'm trained in understanding Numenera. I'll apply a couple levels of effort, and so that will give me a roll of 13, and I'm easing it by 3 steps.
Great.
Okay. You have no problem identifying this very, very strange thing. It seems to be there's some kind of aerosol inside this canister, and this canister is designed so that you can easily spray it on a surface. Not very far; you have to get really close to it. But basically, when you spray it onto the surface, whatever that surface is, you think its matter phase changes, and so you can move through it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And
you think that change will last about an hour.
Do you have a sense of how much surface area it might have, or is it hard to tell?
Quite a bit.
Oh, yay.
Like if you could imagine, I mean, you kind of have to use it all at once.
Yeah.
Once you activate it, you can't like spray a little and then come back and spray later. But you think, like, if you can imagine like a 5 by 5 foot area, you could do like 5 of those.
Wow.
So pretty big.
Yeah, and I recall that the creatures or the beings were telling us it would be a means of quick escape, which probably would have been very useful when we slowly trucked through the ducts. But I think this is such a useful cipher. I'm glad that we saved it. Oh, thank you so much. Kuo, do you want to give it a snazzy name?
I call it phase spray.
Phase spray, perfect.
Awesome.
Yay.
All right. So, Tayrog, it is early on in your scouting that you and your team, you discover, probably because of the rain, you discover an area of it really kind of low in a narrow ravine that is filled with water, and it is not very far away, but it looks like it doesn't look great. There's something here, some kind of runoff, maybe from the grasses or the plants around it, that you wouldn't actually drink this, but you happen to know that Kuo is making a water purifier, and your knowledge of living out here in the wilderness, you're guessing that this area, which probably has a pretty decent rainfall, every time it rains, this little ravine is going to fill up with water. So it's very close. So if you were willing to set up some kind of process of transporting this water, after every rain, it would provide, assuming you could get it purified, it would provide a pretty substantive amount of water for the group.
All right, I will take notes on that and give Kuo a full report. I'll leave it up to him whether he thinks the purifier should be here and the clean water should be pumped back to our base, or if the purifier should be at the base and we should pump the icky water to it to be processed there.
I think we can actually guard the thing here at the base, whereas who knows what would happen out there. And this pumping at this point will be people with pails.
True.
And there, further scouting, you reveal there is a creek with probably much better water, but it is probably about like an hour and a half away. So this is a much more convenient source of water, but unusable until Kuo, or if Kuo can finish this water purifier.
All right. Well, now that I know this thing exists, I will look around the bottom level of the superstructure and just see if there's any like pipes or bits of synth or whatever that we could use to fashion a channel or an aqueduct or anything like that. Just I have a vague sense of what Kuo does, and I've got an eye for salvaging things.
Right.
So just whatever seems like it'd be useful, I'm going to start piling it up near where we're camping.
There's big ducts.
Sure. Well, there is some debris, especially from where that support collapsed and stuff. So you can start gathering stuff that, one way or another. Of course, the ravine, it's all downhill from where you are. So there's no way to pump it up to the. It'd probably be easy to get water to channel down there.
I'm trusting in Kuo's ability to do stuff. And we know some bugs that have a gravity control device.
Ooh. Bold, I like it.
I
Okay.
say having no sense of how difficult that is at all.
All right. What else do you guys want to do while you are gathered here and Kuo is busy working and Tayrog is out? Tayrog and Ulrich and Joe are out scouting, but coming back in the evenings and talking about what they found. This seems one more encouraging thing I will say, Tayrog, is that there does seem to be game around here. There's a variety of birds that would be worth hunting, and some small mammals that you've never seen before, but probably could be used for meat.
Sounds good.
I know Elden is definitely on the lookout for. I still find it really eerie that there was that like big metal strut that got cut, like by something very strong and had fallen over, and so I think Elden has asked someone to constantly be on the lookout to see if someone's sneaking by, setting traps, or trying to otherwise mess around with us. So yeah, that's one thing I'm nervous about. But otherwise, I'm probably like working a lot with our followers, trying to help set up a slightly more permanent camp, even though it's not permanent, and helping out Kuo. So I think Elden's just like a flurry of random tasks constantly, and trying to help this over there, and you two stop fighting, think of the mission, etc.
So, given the nature of this place, at least as it is right now, there's some portion of your team that probably prefers actually spending most of their time outside, but others don't have any problem staying in here. And you can certainly gather wood to make fires and torches and things to provide some light in here. And it's so big that it doesn't really seem to, like, even the smoke and stuff doesn't really seem to be an issue.
Okay.
So that all goes well. Ulrich will, when Elden talks about setting traps and things like that. Now, we know that Ulrich is a little focused on this, but he is convinced that it is the creatures who do that.
Okay.
And he says that he thinks that they're the ones that made the holes in the ductwork, and they probably, if you think that the support was cut, they probably did that too.
Okay. Yeah.
But that might just be Ulrich's thing too.
It's fair. So do we see any sign of the creatures? They never come by?
No. So if we pass through the full 3 days that it takes Kuo to do this, and I will need those rolls from you in a minute here, Kuo. No, there is no sign, no sound, nothing happens. So cool. Bruce, why don't you give me those rolls?
Yeah. All right, so the first two are level 1 and level 2, and I'm specialized, so those become routine.
Okay, great.
The third one will be level 1. It's a level 3 task, eased by 2 steps. I can't actually use effort on it because it's not the kind of thing I can just spend so much effort on, and so.
Because it's representing a full day's work.
Yeah.
That is a 20. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I used a different dice this time.
I don't know. I'm ready to see that 20. Ref?
I know. No, it's definitely 20. It's the colored portion of the Numenera dice this time.
Oh, that's legit.
Yeah.
So, you roll a 20. So, what do you want for a special effect? That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I really want is too powerful. So, I would like a little bit of a... So I'm purifying water, so obviously there's some condensation and distillation probably involved in this, whatever I use for that terminology. So maybe there's a little bit of water I can actually just pull out of the air with, not a small quantity without having to bring it all the way. I mean, just, enough for like a person a day or something like that. But
that sounds totally reasonable. And in fact, if you ferried it when it rains, if you ferried this thing out into the rain, you think you could get even more than that.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's probably just outside the door. So.
Oh, okay. So you don't even have to. Okay, I thought you were putting it inside.
I wasn't, just because I knew we were gonna have to bring water to it. So yeah.
Okay.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. You still, the group will still benefit if you guys also bring some other. Even in the rain, that isn't enough to support everybody.
Cool.
Okay.
But
great.
I will tell everyone what's going on. After the 4 days, have passed, and
it's 4 days.
Yeah, it's 4 days, not 3 days. It's a level 3. It's 3 subtasks, but it's actually 4 days.
Okay. All right. So, at one point during that time, probably close to the end, you're all sitting around and preparing a meal, and Tayrog and the others are back, and you're all together again. And, Ulrinic seems to be kind of chatty. And he seems like a good-natured fellow, although he also seems like he bears grudges. You're kind of picking that up over the last few days. But he says, actually, to Kin, he just kind of says out of nowhere, he just says to Kin, "So what's your story? You seem happy all the time, and what gives you such a great attitude?"
I am probably a little bit taken aback by that. No one's ever asked me that before that I can remember. And I say, well, isn't it obvious? We're here. We've got all our great friends around us. You didn't die in a hole. We made these new friends with the bugs. Like Kuo was working on a water thing. There's just all this fantastic stuff.
Made friends with the bugs, huh?
Well, all right, maybe not friends.
He said he kind of nods and starts eating his meal, and
Elden pipes up sort of mid-meal and asks, sometimes humans are static when I expect them to be dynamic, and sometimes they are dynamic when I would expect otherwise. Kin, have you always been able to see the good in things, or were you ever was this something you learned to do?
I think I was like this since I was really little. I can remember people saying stop talking about all the good stuff, and that never made sense to me. As I'm sitting there, my new tentacle is holding my plate. So so I no longer need a table. And I mean, things are hard, but you look at the good stuff, and there's always something to be excited about.
I say, Elden, speaking of things that are dynamic and static, what, if you don't mind my asking, what made you storm off in a huff when you heard about that Varjellen outpost?
I was so overwhelmed with joy that I would see some of my other Varjellen. It has been so long. I did not want to shame you with my emotions.
Oh, did it seem like a huff? I mean, did it seem okay? I'm sorry, I misunderstood what was happening. I apologize.
Elden says, "Oh, correct," and sort of like scrunches up their face, the eyebrows sort of downward. This is anger to you, correct?
That's right. I mimic it.
We're making angry faces at each other. I see. Well, I was in that moment expressing joy, although I'm starting to pick up, because I must, that the downward eyebrows seems to indicate something else to you. Huff, it indicates a huff.
Turn of phrase.
I'm very excited to see my others of my kind, although I have not had the chance to spend a time with many of them, so I'm curious if I will know the ways that they have built around them. Will we even be so similar? Things as we reach new communities out in the beyond and elsewhere, it seems that everyone is a little bit different in every place. And will these Varjellen also be as foreign to me as we two are? So we will have to find out. I'm eager to see.
When are we going to go there?
Well,
I invite myself in my excitement.
No, that's good. That's good.
Ulrich says, I'm happy to show you the way.
Is it a large community? The Red Ridge? How many people are there?
There's probably about 500-600 people.
Whoa.
Seems like it would be worthwhile to do some sort of trading trip at some point. Although I would think before we do that, we should gather some materials like wood and more debris and stuff like that, just to really put together this base here in as defensible a position as possible. What is that? Does that sound like a good idea before we send a group out?
I've already been gathering materials, so yeah, we can build a wall, whatever you like.
Great. Yes, I think we should make sure this is a stable place to return to before we head out.
Ulrich says, I think you'd like Red Ridge. It's fallen on some hard times recently. It's not the place it once was, but I think you'd like it.
What kind of leadership is present in your town?
There's a man and a woman. They're the town elders. They're hang on. Agata and Vorn. They're good people. They're doing everything they can.
Don't you miss it? Don't you want to go back?
Oh, I want to go back. Yeah. It's he says, like I said, it's not the place it used to be, but I definitely want to go back. I'm enjoying your company, but at some point I gotta go home.
Laughing at the dog, sorry.
Do you have any family? Do you have any family, siblings, children?
Yeah, my brother's still there. I'm sure he's doing all right.
When you say it has fallen on hard times, is there anything we can bring to help along the way or collect that we might start on the correct appendage when we meet your people?
It's mostly just that the crops aren't doing as well as they used to, and nobody really knows why. But food's getting a little scarce. So people like me, we're going farther and farther afield to see if there's, anything that we can find either, among the Numenera or just other useful sources of possible ways to get food.
Well, we'll make a point. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
We will make a point to, at least I will make a point to do some hunting along the way so we can at least bring back some additional supplies to help some of the people at your house. I know what it's like to be hungry.
Oh.
I'm sure anything that you can do would be appreciated. But if this isn't Ulrich speaking, this is me. That like if there's 500 or 600 people there, what you could provide would be a nice gesture. But
gesture's good for now. Yeah.
Yeah, not anything that would actually significantly change things.
I mean, I might roll a natural 20. Who knows? World's biggest chicken.
Well, how long do we think it might take Kuo? I have only a passable experience with building fortifications. Do you have a sense of how long we would want to spend building that up before we would send an embassy out?
Of course, I could take as much time as you give me, because I could always make the walls bigger and taller. But just a palisade around this entrance, some sort of a workable gate. I'm going to say a week.
If we have time like that, I might want to reestablish contact with our cohabitants. But I would like to hear your assessment of that first. And would we have time to build another telepathic cipher to assist that communication? If not, I don't want to interrupt your palisade work.
I would have to check my plans for that.
Mm-hmm.
We might not quite have all the items, since I just put a lot of what I have in this water purifier, and I look at it and I beam. I look very happy, out of bounds, perhaps, with what you might expect. But
well, again, I do have an item detector cipher. So if there's something in particular that you would need for your telepathic cipher, then
can you tune it to find particular kinds of item?
Yes.
Oh, all right. I will get that information to you.
Okay. Cool. So it sounds like you're going to spend probably another week here, maybe. And maybe if you, is it safe to assume that if you can't wrangle another telepathic cipher, that you won't try to communicate, or are you going to try to communicate either way?
I think
I can make I was going to say, I think I could make a really low level version that only lasts about an hour.
Cool.
That I probably have the item for that. So
that's a what's the term? An unstable cipher?
Temperamental.
Oh,
temperamental.
So the right
I think I
language?
don't necessarily know what I'm going to get when I do temperamental.
Okay.
Because I can choose the minimum crafting level for some of these.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we will deal with any potential attempts at communication with your roommates next time. But other than that, we will probably, I think, assume that we head south to Red Ridge.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Exciting.
Before we go, so there's been 2 sessions, and you guys have accomplished quite a bit. You first and foremost have potentially found a site where you think you can maybe set up an outpost. Some of that might still be in question because there's weird insect creatures living there, but it's a start. It's a possibility, and so that's worth 2 XP for everybody right there. you saved Alrinic, which is worth another XP.
Aw.
And you established communication with these non-human creatures. You basically dealt with that as as a challenge, but just because you didn't defeat them, right? The Numenera is not really a game about bashing monster skulls. So, but establishing communications with them in a very good way. Because again, you're out here to maybe extend Neon's reach, and maybe that's to human villages, and maybe that's to non-human creatures. So I'm going to say that's worth another 2. So that's a total of 5 XP for everybody for the last 2 sessions.
Dang, we're gonna get some advancements, I bet.
I know. I think I might be up for a new ability. I'm
Yay.
excited.
Cool. So I will let you guys take the next couple of weeks to figure out what you want to do with those XP, if anything, and we will gather here again in 2 weeks. Before we go, though, Darcy, you probably got some announcements for everyone, right?
Yes, you're all used to my plugs by now. We've got plugs, but they're pretty simple this time, because we have Gen Con looming over us next week. So hopefully we'll be seeing some of you there. If you haven't already, we have lots of great events going on. A lot of our events, especially the games, are sold out, but there's still some seats, and there are some cool seminars people are on. I think we have to announce the lovely writers track panels that both Shauna and Bruce have a bevy of. So we will probably be putting up our where you can find us post sometime this week. But in general, we'll be at our booth. Come stop by. Come tell us what you like about Twitch and elsewise.
Very pertinent to this particular thing. We have a panel with Bruce and Sean and I, where we're going to talk specifically about Discovery and Destiny. It's called Discover Your Destiny.
Yes.
So if any of this seems intriguing, but you'd like to know, more about the changes between the original core book and the new ones, that would be a great place to come. And we will have, if you haven't pre-ordered or if you didn't back the Kickstarter, we will have copies of Discovery and Destiny at the booth, so stop by.
Yeah.
Can I plug our MCG night?
Yes.
So come to MCG night. It's a ticketed event, so you need a ticket because it's Gen Con run. It's Thursday at.
It is at. I have it right here. 8 p.m.
8. I thought it was at 7. It's Thursday night. Look on Gen Con's calendar. We're gonna do some super cool. It's the thing that we normally do as our panel, but this year it's super fun and cool. There's trivia. You can win things. And it's going to be glorious. And it's going to be super, super fun.
Absolutely. It is 6 to 8 p.m. Sorry. I'm reading Gen Con wrong.
Thank you, Bear.
That's going to be really fun. I can't wait till we see it. Till we're there. We are also doing a live show for those of you who are just love our Twitch stuff. We're doing a live show of The Raven Wants What You Have, which will be really cool because, we recorded that lovely Invisible Sun streamed narrative all like huddled up together in one room over a very short period of time. And so I'm really excited. I feel like we've kind of gotten the audience interaction because we would watch the scheduled episodes along with chat. But it'll be really cool to get to perform and play like with an audience and with the fans. So if you can make it to that, we'd love to see you. It's another highlight for me. But there's still a lot of stuff going on until Gen Con. And I think a big part of it is going to be our Your Best Game Ever Kickstarter, which we talked about at the front of the show, but I just want to say again, it's really cool. It's going to be making a brand new book that should be the book every role-playing game curious person through every role-playing game experienced person should have, right? It's going to have all sorts of really hands-on, actionable advice and tools and resources that are relevant to you if you're a player or a GM, or curious about becoming, increasing your techniques. We're even going to have stuff about how to stream your games or, considerations about streamed gaming, which is not something that there's a lot of information about out now. So, yay. Monty, anything else? Do you want to give our last hurrah about the?
There's so much.
I know.
but I think you put it best, Darcy, that this is where our goal is to make this a book that everyone who plays a role-playing game, no matter what game that is, this is going to be a very useful addition to your game shelf or your coffee table, because it's going to be a big, beautiful book too. And we have a whole bunch of 14 now consulting experts that are going to be helping us. They're this really great spectrum of experience and background, and it's just, they're going to provide so much insight. We're excited to work with them.
Absolutely. Cipher of Tyr is Tanya DePass of I Need Diverse Games, who played in an Invisible Sun game with me on the One Shot Network and is all around incredible human being and talented and smart. And so we're so excited to have her on board. So thanks for coming by and chat. And also, I just wanted to say that we've announced, we funded, which is amazing. So we are not only making your best game ever, we are also making a revised Cipher system rulebook, which is going to be pretty significantly reworked. I'll put up a blog article that you can read to get all the details about how it's changing kind of drastically in what the content of the book is, although not changing the rules. I think there's a really cool balance of giving you lots more resources for how to build your own focus that is perfectly tuned to the genre you want, rather than spending so much page material on lists of foci, right? So in addition to many other cool changes like incorporating character arcs and player intrusions to all your Cipher games. So I could talk forever about that, but I won't. But of very much interest to all of you who like Cipher, we've announced our first stretch goal, and it is called The Stars Are Fire. And if you know anything about me, you know I desperately have been itching for a space game for years now, and I just haven't gotten around to playing it. And this is going to sate that itch for me. It's going to be a really cool 160-page sci-fi Cipher resource book, but also like Predation and these other games, it's going to have its own custom, beautifully realized campaign setting in it too. So the cover has been shown, and I posted a link in chat. But we would really, really love to see The Stars Are Fire happen. And who knows? It is a Monte Cook Games Kickstarter. There could be other stretch goals, conceivably. So get excited.
Can I throw in one thing about your best game ever? So this is a book that's for players and GMs of any RPG. And a lot of people are like, I've been gaming for 30, 40 years, 100 years, and I don't need to, I know everything there is to know. Even for people like that, there's going to be stuff in this book that you'll find useful. And I know you know somebody who's new to gaming. It's a great way for you to be like, I'm just going to download all my gaming wisdom in the form of this book and give it to you, new person, so that you can run awesome games. So please take a look at Kickstarter. We've got 900 backers so far, and thank you to all of them. You guys are great.
Yes, thank you to everybody who's backed so far. It means the world. We're so excited people are up for coming along with this ride with us.
Very cool.
All right, I'm going to post some last links in chat, but otherwise we will see you either at Gen Con or you'll see you at, of course, in the Kickstarter comments. We're hanging out and chatting all over social media. And then we will see you 2 weeks from now as we pick up with possibly going to Red Ridge and possibly, squandering all our good favor with these lovely people we just met. Although Bruce keeps rolling 20s, so maybe he'll still have the luck.
Sure he does.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will talk to you soon.
Good night.
Bye.